Jai Sri Krishna. Today we begin our study of chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, titled Purushottam Yoga, which translates to the yoga of the Supreme Person. So this chapter is one of the most profound and philosophical sections of the Bhagavad Gita. It unveils the illusory nature of the material world while highlighting the eternal reality of a spiritual realm. Additionally, it provides deep insights into the relationship between Jivatma, that is the individual soul, and Purushottam, the supreme soul, that is Lord Krishna itself, guiding seekers towards ultimate liberation. So let's recite the verses and look into the meaning and significance of these. Om Sri Bhagwan Vach. ऊर्ध्वमूलं अधः शाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्. In this verse, Lord Krishna uses the metaphor urdhvamulam aswatham, the inverted banyan tree, to symbolize the material world and its intricate nature. The upside down position of banyan tree carries profound philosophical and spiritual significance. The leaves of the tree represent the verses of Vedas and Upanishads, signifying knowledge and wisdom. Krishna explains that one who truly understands the nature of this tree is the Jnani, the enlightened one, a person with true wisdom. Now let's decode this inverted banyan tree metaphor. So the roots hanging upwards, it signifies the material world is nourished and sustained by the divine energy flowing down from the transcendental roots, which extend from the spiritual realm ever. So in our mythology, in Adhyatma, divinity is a higher property. So the upward, the high signifies divinity, the spiritual realm. So the energy, sustenance energy to this material world comes from divinity. That's why the root is extending upward. The branches symbolize various manifestations of life, including humans, animals, and plants, expanding into material realm. The leaves represent the Vedic scriptures, just like, leaves are the kitchen of a tree. So these leaves, which represent Vedic scriptures, provide knowledge and nourishment to sustain the material existence. The inverted position reflects the distorted perception of the reality in the material world, where people mistake temporary illusions for the ultimate truth. So in material realm, things are of temporary nature, temporal nature. What we see today, tomorrow, either it might get transformed or it might be doomed. It may not be available. So that's why material realm is called illusion. We see today, we see house today. Tomorrow, it's a plain land. Okay, because of various reasons. You see me today, tomorrow I may not be there. Okay, so I'm an illusion. Material. So this material body is an illusion. Whereas the soul, which is the life force, because of this tool, the material tool is talking, listening, is eternal, is of eternal nature. Okay, so this in the Bhagavad Gita, this has been called Jivatma, the individual soul. Okay, and this individual soul is part of the supreme soul, Purushottam. Okay, the ultimate energy. Okay, so Jivatma is part of the super soul. The soul is part of the super soul. So once this body is doomed and Jivatma comes out of this body, it goes and unifies with the supreme soul. So this has also been talked about in this chapter. So it has very philosophical and profound spiritual significance. Lord Krishna further says, अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसितास्तस्य शाखा गुणप्रविद्धा विषयप्रवालाः अधश्च मूलान्य अनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके. So this metaphorical tree has branches expanding both downward and upward. So what does it symbolize? Downward growth signifies degradation. Okay, while upward growth represents a spiritual elevation. And the direction of growth is influenced by the three gunas, that is Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun, that we have talked in various sessions in detail. Okay, so this this is represented by the sprouts that align with the sense objects, drawing beings into material attachment. Okay, so the soul, under the influence of these material gunas, gets attached to this material world. Okay, through senses. Senses are the medium, which entangles a soul into this material world. Additionally, the roots extend downward, signifying the soul's deep entanglement in the material world, binding it through desire and karma. Okay? Lord Krishna further says, न रूपमस्येह ततोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च समप्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन छित्त्वा ततः पदं तत्परिमार्गित्वं यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूयः तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्तिः प्रसिता पुराणी. Lord Krishna explains that the true form of this inverted banyan tree cannot be perceived due to its ever-changing nature. It has no clear beginning, no definite end, and no firm foundation. Yet its roots run deep, binding the soul to material existence. The vast expanse of this tree symbolizes a living being's desire and natural tendency to expand them further. So our desire keeps expanding, okay? And this inverted banyan tree represents that. The expanse of this inverted banyan tree represents what desire, okay? And desire leads to deeper entanglement in this material world. Therefore, Lord Krishna urges seekers to wield a sharp weapon of detachment, vairagya, okay, to cut down this tree, freeing themselves from illusion and moving towards a spiritual liberation. Okay, so asang sastrena dridhena chittva, okay, using the weapon of detachment, that is vairagya, cut down this tree. and thus get freed from illusion and move towards a spiritual liberation. Okay. So by cutting down the illusory tree of the material world, one must strive for the supreme destination. So soul has to go back to its parent. Okay, Jivatma, the individual soul has to unite with the supreme soul. So by cutting down the illusory nature of the material world, one must strive for supreme destination. And that is the destination of the soul. The soul originated from there and it has to go back to the same. Okay, and reaching which one never returns to the cycle of birth and death. Cycle of death and birth, it nothing but, it signifies the pain and miseries. Okay, and, reaching back to the origin, that is, to the supreme soul, is all about, establishing yourself in a spiritual dimension rather than material dimension. Material dimension, till you are in material dimension, you will keep suffering. You will get, you will desire more. The more you get, you desire more, and this is very cyclic, and it's painful. It will cause disturbance. Peace will always elude. Okay, so it's all about mentally aligning yourself, mentally aligning yourself with the spiritual dimension while you are in this material world. Okay, if you mentally align yourself with a spiritual dimension, you become free from many pains and misery. You cannot be completely free, till you are alive. But yes, of course, you get freedom from most of the pain and miseries. Okay, and this is what liberation is, mukti. Okay, so this signifies firm alignment with the spiritual dimension. Okay, essential for freedom from the worldly pain and suffering. The true liberation, moksha, arises from recognizing Krishna as the eternal, ultimate source and surrendering to him with pure devotion. Okay? So, there is a profound definition of Krishna, and it has very beautifully been captured by some of our Muni. So, this verse is as follows. ईश्वरः परमः कृष्णः सच्चिदानन्दविग्रहः अनादिर् आदिर्गोविन्दः सर्वकारणकारणम्. Very nice. Krishna, who is known as Govind, is the supreme God. He possesses an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all creation. But he has no origin of his own and is the prime cause of all causes. Very well defined. Okay, this has been taken from Brahma Samhita. So it's relevant. So, I have compiled it here. So this realization, once we realize the illusory nature of this material world and align ourselves, in the spiritual dimension, okay, we establish a direct connection with divine consciousness and eternal bliss, eternal happiness. Okay? Lord Krishna further says, Nirman moha jit sang dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandir vimukta sukh dukh sangir gachanti mudha padmam vyayam tat. This verse unveils the key attributes essential for establishing yourself in a spiritual dimension, essential for attaining a spiritual excellence. So what are these? What are these attributes? These attributes are humility, overcome attachment, that is develop vairag, no attachment with anything, living being or non-living being. And these are the major hindrances towards a spiritual progress. And dedicate yourself to the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. Okay? So pursue the knowledge and wisdom which clarifies the illusory nature of this material world and eternal bliss that is due to divinity, due to a spiritual realm. And then Lord Krishna says, rise above the duality of happiness and sorrow, maintaining equanimity in all circumstances. By embracing these virtues, by embracing these attributes, one transcends material limitations, and reach the supreme eternal state of liberation. So liberation is what? Again, I repeat it. It's freedom from pain and misery. Mostly it talks about, mental pain and misery. That very much influence our, physical suffering also. Lord Krishna further says, न तद भास्यते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावकः यद गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः कष्टानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकीर्तिस्थानि कर्षति. Very nice. The poetic beauty of Bhagavad Gita is unparalleled. We must appreciate it. So, in these two verses, Lord Krishna explains that the spiritual abode, once we establish ourselves in a spiritual realm, we understand. We should know about, about this spiritual world. So he's telling about this spiritual world. Okay. So this world doesn't require sun, moon, or fire for illumination. This world is self-illuminated. Okay. So such sources like, sun, moon, fire, these sources of illumination are needed for material world. So a spiritual world is self-sustaining, whereas material world is dependent upon the divine energy. Okay. So the soul is inherently self-luminous, beyond the need for external light. Once an individual realizes the soul's divine, self-illuminating nature, they remain rooted in the higher consciousness. Higher consciousness is a spiritual awareness that I am not this body. I am that energy which makes this body feel something, realize something, think something. Okay, so this understanding, helps us remain rooted in higher consciousness, and the desire develops not to return to the material existence again. Okay, not to return to the material existence here mean that you don't develop material attachment in future, attachment to your house, to your car, and all those things, to your kid, to your wife, and so. Krishna further states that every living being is an eternal part of him. So the, the living force, the energy which makes us living being, it comes from there only. Okay, Supreme Soul. So every living being is an eternal part of him. It signifies that. Recognizing this divine connection, one should strive to reunite. One should strive to reunite with their true spiritual essence. However, when six senses, including the mind, okay, become engrossed in the material world, they experience suffering and bondage, distancing the soul from its original, blissful, self-illuminous state. Okay. Lord Krishna further says, Shariram yad vapnoti yacchapyut गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुः च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते. Lord Krishna refers to soul as Ishwar, Jivatma. Okay, the individual soul he is talking about. The supreme controller within the body. We listen because of Jivatma, because of the soul, the eternal soul, the divine energy. We see because of the divine energy. After death also, eye is there, but it cannot see. Ear is there, but it cannot hear. Okay. So, Lord Krishna refers to this Jivatma, the soul, as Iswar, the supreme controller within the body. Just as the wind carries fragrance from one place to another, the soul carries the impressions, tendencies, and the conditioning of the mind and senses as it transitions from one body to the next. Okay, by associating itself with the sense objects through hearing, sight, touch, taste, and smell, the soul shapes its future experiences and continues its journey through different lifetimes. Okay, so this statement basically highlights the evolution of human nature and consciousness. How does human nature and consciousness evolve? Okay, reflecting how societal values and tendencies influence our collective spiritual progression. It also underscores the importance of self-awareness and mindful living, as the choices we make today shape not only our individual destiny, but also the moral and ethical landscape of community now and in future. Okay, so this has very deep meaning. Here, next birth, transition from, one body to another body basically signifies the transition of our moral values, transition of our, habits from one generation to the next generation. Okay, so there is no movement as such, so of soul from one body to another body like this. No. Okay, so the significance we have to read between the lines. When we are reading spiritual books like Bhagavad Gita, if we go by the literal meaning, then we will not understand the essence of the knowledge and wisdom which lies there. Lord Krishna further says, Utkramantam sthitam vapi भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः. Lord Krishna says, the ignorant are unable to perceive how the soul departs from the body. How does it reside within the body? And how does it experiences through the various sense organs? Okay, experience pain or pleasure. And soul experiences this pain and pleasure through sense organs, through mind. Okay, under the influence of material gunas. Okay, that is sato gun, rajo gun, and tamo gun, which is due to the material make of our body. So once we associate our self with body, okay, of course we are pained. Okay, we suffer due to the gunas of this body. Once we detach ourselves with this body and align ourselves in the spiritual dimension, we get freedom, liberation from the pain and pleasure which is due to material gunas, that is satogun, rajogun, and tamogun. Okay, he further says, this limitation arises because of their understanding is confined to material properties of the body, because of association, because of we identifying ourselves with this body, we suffer, we are pained. However, those who possess a spiritual wisdom and deeper understanding can clearly recognize this eternal truth beyond material perception. So eternal truth doesn't have, cannot be perceived like material things are perceived. But once we have understanding of this, okay, our life becomes blissful. Our sufferings and pain are reduced to great extent. Okay, so very profound and deep philosophical message in this chapter. So we will continue with a study of this chapter in our upcoming session, and that will be the end of this chapter, because this chapter has 20 verses. So 10 verses we have already covered, 10 more verses to be covered, that we will cover in the upcoming session. So keep watching. Thank you very much.